Greetings, Friday Nights and Monster Girls. I'm Count Jackula.
And I'm the Horror Guru.
And we just saw Hellraiser Judgement. I judge thee not as bad as some, but
yeah. Hellraiser movies have this reoccurring problem. You see, after Hellraiser 2, pretty much all the sequels you can qualify as being bad movies. But there's like a scale of it. You have like the worst of the worst, which are the ones that are not only bad, but are barely even Hellraiser movies.
Yeah, like Hellworld.
Yeah. And then you have other ones that are better than most, but are still not that good, like Hellraiser 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah,
2 is actually pretty good.
Yeah,
Hellraiser
2's
3,
very good, but like
3 or 4
is definitely a huge step down. 4 was Bloodlines was a slight step up, but and then everything after that is just fucking garbage. So,
and this one's interesting.
Yeah, this one's interesting. This definitely is in kind of comes under almost best of the worst.
Yeah, because in terms of Hellraiser movies, this is on the better scale, but that's a really shitty scale outside of 2 movies.
Yeah, it's if you're like, wow, I didn't think Bloodlines was very good, then you're not going to think Judgment is very good.
Yeah, this is...
because the one thing that is the most annoying about this movie is that it has had the potential. All the ingredients that you needed were in the story, but they weren't cooked properly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was feeling. I was like, most of the stuff in this movie wouldn't be bad if it was executed better.
Yeah, unlike some of them, like for instance, like Hellworld, you're just like, no, this was not going to work. Never happened. Deader was the same way.
Oh, God.
Where you're like, oh my fucking God. Like, well, what was that other one? Was it Ritual? Or fucking the first one that had the twin Cenobites. The female twin Cenobites.
Shit. They are all blending together in my head.
I think that was Inferno.
I remember liking Inferno better than most, but it was still...
it's still pretty bad.
The problem with Inferno is that was clearly one that was not written as a Hellraiser movie. And as a not Hellraiser movie, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, exactly. This one was written to be a Hellraiser movie.
And you could tell.
Very obviously. But you know what I thought a better subtitle for this should have been? Should have been Hellraiser the Yellowing.
The Yellowing.
It was everything's got this yellow
They had
tone
two
over everything.
colors. Either it was super yellow or super blue. And blue is usually used to signify Pinhead and the Cenobites, and yellow was used to signify these other demons.
Yeah.
That are apparently a separate faction, except they apparently... like, Pinhead's their boss still, so I don't know.
Yeah,
this movie's weird because it treats Pinhead like he is Satan.
Yeah, and that didn't feel right.
No, it didn't feel right.
Because Pinhead's supposed to feel like the High Priest.
Well, yeah, he's the High Priest and he worships Leviathan.
Yeah. It's the big spinny diamond thing with chains around it. Then something happens.
Whereas this movie has him for a good half of the movie, he's sitting on this throne thing.
It was super weird because he's sitting on a throne that just faces a blank wall. I was like,
it's the same shot over and over again of him just putting his head back. And it's awkward as fuck because the guy can't actually put his head back because he's got the pins in his head. So you're just like, why did you choose this as the action he does that you keep cutting back to?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that was actually kind of sad was the guy, obviously it's not Doug Bradley this time.
He doesn't do a bad job.
But he didn't do a bad job. You're like, no, this guy could play Pinhead.
I bought him as Pinhead, even though it was a slightly different interpretation of Pinhead.
Yeah, but you could buy this actor as playing Pinhead.
Way more than the guy from Revelations.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the other one that was also obviously a Hellraiser movie in concept, but was not very good.
Yeah, and one of the... Okay, so the basic plot of this movie is... there are 3 factions in the afterlife, and there is a Seven style serial killer on Earth.
Yeah, that's another thing that a lot of Hellraiser sequels are obsessed with. Like, so many of them were done post-7, and they were obviously, like, 7-inspired scripts that were adapted into Hellraiser movies.
Yep.
But this one was a Hellraiser movie that just happened to be inspired by 7.
Yeah.
But the problem is I'm so tired of that.
No, I'm sick of it. Sick of it. Like, so much of what Hellraiser really is comes down to the style.
Yeah.
You know, and these sequels just have not had it.
And this one tried a little bit with some of its style, more than most.
Yeah, it
more
attempted.
Than most.
It attempted.
But it was still not that good.
Yeah, the main thing that this thing has is it's the grossest of the Hellraiser.
It was definitely one of the grossest ones I'd seen.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of vomit. There is a lot of, like, making people drink spit.
The first,
things like that.
10, 15 minutes of this movie I would qualify as, like, an endurance test movie. Because, like, the first 10 to 15 minutes is just, let's see how much gross shit we can throw at you at once. With, like, the one person who deserves the most praise for this movie is whoever did the sound design.
Yeah.
Like, the sounds of, like, the actual gross shit is actually gross.
Yeah, the Foley is good.
Like,
you know?
though it does fall victim to the cheap movie, let's use these generic scream sound effects that you hear in every movie.
Yeah, it does.
And make
problem.
you feel less like you're in a movie and more like you're in a fake haunted house, like on Halloween.
Yeah,
those kinds of screams.
Yeah, which had this been a haunted house, it'd been awesome.
Oh yeah,
it'd be an awesome haunted house.
Which is weird because
it
does set up at the beginning that it's all supposed to take place around the house, but the house ends up being like not important.
It doesn't matter.
But by the second half of the movie, it's not even a thing.
Yeah,
like,
they spend this thing in the beginning of the fucking movie explaining how the Lamarchand's box is now, like, antiquated. And
it's obsolete.
It's obsolete, and you're like,
so we're gonna use this house.
Yeah, and you're like,
I'm like,
okay.
What? A house?
All right.
Because the whole argument, right, is that it's obsolete in this digital age, and I'm just like, so you're gonna use stale mail in a house? That makes no sense.
Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense.
If it's the digital age, then they're not going to want to come to your house, number one. And number two, you open with mail, not an email. Like, it's like, okay.
Yeah, and okay. So that's basically the plot. God. All right. So the question is it thumbs down, or does this suck like Christian rock?
My problem is that, like, I was getting so bored throughout it, I don't know how I could recommend it, even with the stuff I liked in it.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Because I was getting so fucking bored about halfway through, I started to check out, you know?
Yeah. This is a movie that you watch in order to be inspired to create a better movie.
Yeah.
You know?
There's so much, like, just really shitty amateur directing in this movie. Like, there's, like, an obsession with, what do you call them? Dissolves and slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
Like a way overuse of it. Like this kind of stuff that you would expect like in like a music video for like to keep up with the beat. But in this movie, it's happening for no reason half the time. Yeah. Sometimes it's like it's supposed to be dreamlike. I'm like, okay. But then other times you're just like, that just looks bad. Yeah. And it's really boring and it slows down the scene and you're just like, stop it! Just fucking shoot it normally. The original Hellraiser 1 and 2 did not need this much slow motion to get its point across.
Yeah. It just used basic tried true techniques to get its fucking shit across, and it is excellent.
Yes.
You know? This, on the other hand, there's a lot of trying too hard with the camera work, and that is bizarre because it just adds nothing.
And even on a script level, this is really clunky.
Oh, it's super clunky.
Because it's one of those stories where the main character is supposed to know something you don't. And so when it actually like is revealed, even though you kind of figure it out real early on, you're sitting there going like, I feel like at some point when we were following this character, this would have come up.
Yeah.
During any of these other scenes in which other characters weren't around.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah.
So it feels really clunky in that, like... I feel like if this person was alone, we would have seen some sort of indication of this.
Well, yeah. Well, given the fact that the story is such a fucking mess.
Yeah.
It's such a mess. Like, well, one of the things that makes the first two Hellraisers so good is that they are movies that are based around the concept of revelation. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, we're going to reveal something to you. The first one reveals the nature of, you know, what lies beyond. And the second one goes into more detail as to what that is, what that means. It reveals Leviathan. And
this movie is centered around the word judgment. Like, it is centered around
it is centered around judgment.
Like, you have the serial killer who's judging people and killing them. You have the house, which is taking people in and judging them and punishing them. And then you have the fact that two of the main characters, or three of the main characters, are cops, and they're trying to judge the fucking serial killer. So the judgment is a through line in this, but it's just really clunky.
It just doesn't. How to put it? Like, it doesn't. I just fucking hated it. I just fucking hated it. Thumbs down.
It's a waste of good suffering.
It's like you get an E for effort, but like.
You get a complete.
You get an F for execution, unfortunately, which is really too bad, because there's a lot of things in this movie that I did really like. There's this character they introduce who is kind of like Pinhead's like right-hand man in this movie. And that character is enjoyable as fuck.
Because he's like this kind of weird, like, go-between. He's like the guy who fucking dictates your confession.
And his face is kind of like the dude at the end of Event Horizon, where it's all like these like gashes and stuff. He's very simple, but like I like the idea that there's just this dude who is sort of like, oh, please sit down. Let me like tell me about your sins.
Tell me about your childhood.
And the funny thing is that the scenes of him taking people's confessions were the most enjoyable ones for me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like the whole like weird like fucking trial sequence. Kind of worked. It's just that you found yourself going a couple of things. One, you're like, well, this is kind of cool, but it doesn't really feel like a Hellraiser movie.
No. Well, because what's missing is there's a key ingredient that's missing. It tries to insert it with like the girls and the tits. Yeah. But what's really missing in this movie to make it feel like a Hellraiser movie is the hypersexual aspect.
The eroticism.
The eroticism is kind of missing. It's like they try to do it because like there's these like weird like judging demon things that are all these like half like mauled faces, but like they have like tits and they just sit there. And they judge, and like they're there, and there is moments where they try to be erotic with them, but it feels like it's like such on the back burner. It doesn't feel like Hellraiser.
Well, it doesn't feel like it's integrated into the rest of the film, and that's a huge problem.
Because this movie makes a bigger emphasis on suffering than the pleasure of suffering, which is like the thing that Pinhead's all about. Like,
yes, Like, well, okay, let's just get into the spoilers. So one of the things that happens is at the end of the movie, it becomes very clear that they introduce the concept of paradise, heaven, whatever. And I'm like,
there's an angel.
Yeah.
I forget her name, but she's in the
movie. It's fucking something. Some blonde woman in a white suit. I'm like, apparently they're just getting angels from Supernatural at this point.
She felt like she was out of Supernatural.
She
did not feel like she was from a Hellraiser movie.
No, because like
it reminds me of like, what was it, like Wishmaster 4 or 3, where they introduce angels, and it just feels like it's out of left field.
Yeah, because like, how to put it, if you're gonna put angels in a Hellraiser thing, you can do that, but they have to feel like fucking angels out of Dante.
Yeah.
Where they're like, and the 7 heads and the 5 mouths and like, like the 18 wings. It's just gotta feel like you see an angel and you're just like, yeah, and your face melts off.
Just a pretty blonde chick in a white suit. It just felt. It was a nice contrast to everything around it, but it did feel like you just stepped out of a completely different movie.
Yeah. You stepped off it's like, Supernatural's being shot over there.
Yeah.
You want to maybe go back to the fucking thing that you obviously walked off
I'm not going to lie. There was a moment when she's sitting there face to face with Pinhead where I keep expecting Sam Winchester to just burst in or something.
Yeah. Yeah, there really was, because they have that weird sort of like, detente at the end between the angel and Pinhead, and you're just sort of like, what the
In which
fuck?
Pinhead gets banished after torturing her, and I'm just like, what does any of this have to do with the previous movie we just watched? Because this just feels tacked on at the end as like a weird cliffhanger.
Well, like it's also weird because like throughout the movie, like visions of hell and creatures from it just appear in the regular world. Like, as you're walking around.
Yeah, he's being haunted by the visions of hell before he even opens the box.
Yeah, and
which
that's
at that point
problem.
makes me go like, well, then why does it even matter if he opens it or not? Like, the box is just superfluous.
Yeah, it's just a fucking prop at this point.
You know, like other Hellraiser sequels did that. Like Inferno also did that, where they had the characters that were haunted by stuff. But most of those sequels weren't written as Hellraiser movies.
Yeah,
they were
exactly.
just adapted into ones later.
Yeah, whereas this one, it felt like they were actually trying to do something with it. But yeah, like, it's one of those things where, like, I could see what they could have done with this. One, they could have likened the Le Marchand's box to walking the streets of a city late at night, and so you're like making a pattern, you know. And if it had turned out that, oh, the guy's opening the box by doing these killings, and so it makes the Hellraiser pattern, and it's going to open up, and then something's going to happen, that'd have been cool. Like, that'd have been cool, as opposed to, oh yes, he kills people after the 10 Commandments. Oh, fuck you.
This is weird. It would have been a completely different movie, but this is something I would have liked. Drop the whole 7 murder mystery plot. Because if within like 5 seconds, I'm just like, oh, is he the killer?
Yeah, main character's killer. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Oh my god, and that's another thing. It takes like fucking 15 minutes for this fucking movie to tell you who the main character is.
That's also true. Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm like, is this guy the main character? No, he's dead now. Is he coming back? Are we... Oh no, is it her? Is it her? Oh no, it's this guy. This guy's the main character.
Here's what I would have preferred. Since the whole plot revolves around him going to the house... during his investigation, getting judged, then escaping, and then running from hell for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
I would have just rather dropped the whole cop plot in general and just made him just a flat-out serial killer that's on the run from the cops already.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then
why not do that?
And then if you still wanted to have the angel in it, just have the twist at the end be that, like, he's doing God's work. Like, it's...
Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah,
which is in the movie, but after that, at that point, I so checked out. I didn't care anymore.
Yeah, well, like, it also ends with, like, Pinhead being banished to Earth, and so he's just...
It's so tacked on!
Yeah, it's so tacked on. So he's like this homeless guy who fucking just cuts his own face. And I found myself going, that would have been okay if you had done that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like, okay, the Cenobites are walking around the city, and hell is opening up.
Well, yeah,
fine.
That was such an obvious, like, oh, here, in case we do another Hellraiser movie, here's our little thing.
Our little thing. But I was just like, but you could have just flat out just done that.
Well, it was also weird because I'm just like, okay, so they're treating him like he's Satan, and he's standing up to this angel. Apparently, he can take down this angel.
I really do not like these sequels that basically put Pinhead in the Satan role, because I'm like, that does not work. It has never worked. It needs to stop.
No. Well, that's the problem with a lot of the sequels, in my opinion. At least a lot of the ones that are written to be Hellraiser sequels, is a lot of them seem to not fully understand what Pinhead is.
No, they do not.
You know, by the time you get to Hellraiser 3, they're trying to make him Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah, and I'm like, why are we making him Freddy Krueger? He was already fucking Pinhead.
Yeah.
You know, like, I was actually of the opinion that I thought what Hell on Earth was going to be was we were going to get the Doctor from the second movie as the main Cenobite, but by the end of it, Pinhead was going to return. Yeah. You know, because that seemed like a good direction to go. It seemed like a natural progression. Like, oh, okay, so Pinhead and this guy are just going to be fighting over who gets to torture fuck everybody. Yeah. I'm okay with that, and then that's not what the movie was about.
No.
Yeah. No. That's not. Hellraiser Judgment. It is as bad as you're afraid it is, but luckily not worse. It's not the worst movie you'll ever see. It's not even the worst Hellraiser movie.
Both this one and Revelation sit in this weird zone of being about as bad as most of the Hellraiser sequels, but being a little bit better just by virtue of the fact that they were actually written as Hellraiser sequels.
Yeah. Like, how to put it, like, the twin female Cenobites, those are pretty cool. The Judgement segments, those were pretty cool. But it just didn't gel together into a really good movie.
No.
You know, we could have... I found myself going, like, I feel like this is 2 or 3 movies that are all competing to be a movie.
Well, it does have that problem, too.
You know, it's like, oh, it's Seven. Oh, it's Hellraiser, kind of. Oh, it's like, you know, like a discount store Baskin. You know, and I'm like, okay.
That's another thing. A lot of the good, like, hell parts of this movie are done better in Baskin.
Oh yeah, they're done way better in Baskin. Yeah, they're done way better. But you know, if you're gonna take inspiration from something, that's not a bad movie to be inspired by. It's just I expect more from Hellraiser. You know, because it's Hellraiser.
Like, it's obvious they had like a low budget, but like even low budget movies can get away with more than this. A lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, like how many? The original Hellraiser was a low budget movie.
Yeah.
You know, like, even though that was like, you know, 80s dollars, that was like, what, $10 million movie? You know, so.
I'm not entirely sure.
You know, like.
I have to look it up.
yeah. You know, it wasn't that expensive, you know, but. Oh, God.
Well, the problem is that ever since Dimension and the Weinsteins bought the property, they've just basically been shitting out these direct-to-video shitquels solely to keep the rights. They don't actually care. Like,
yeah, and that endlessly pisses me off because I want a real Hellraiser movie again.
I did read Jason Blum said he was interested in rebooting Hellraiser, and I would let him do it.
I would totally let him do it.
Just because his track record with these reboots are way better.
Well, yeah. like, let me put it this way. I don't know if the movie will be better, but I believe Jason Blum would care.
They would try. That being said, I do believe that the person who made this movie was trying. They just weren't very good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you can keep the actor who played Pinhead in this one. He was okay.
Yeah, if that guy wants to return as Pinhead, I'd be down for it.
Yeah, but everything else is kind of bad. Why does Angel just look like a fucking chicken in a white suit? That was dumb.
I know.
I mean, like, I kept waiting. I was like, okay, well, if we're gonna do Angel, like, shouldn't it be all fucked up? Like, that would be Clive Barker.
Yeah.
But no, we don't do that. Ugh, anyway, fuck it. Anyway, thumbs down.
It's a waste of good suffering.
Fucking, this was a Lincoln log left on top of a Lamar Sean's box that was left out in the hot Alabama sun.
And then I shit on it.
So, look, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and I stream every Thursday and Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Look, this little thing, you can decipher it. It's right there, but it's right here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitch. If you're just like, hey, I wonder if he's going to randomly stream during the week. I do. And where can they find you?
You can find me at The Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook. Just look up The Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I will be there.
All right. Until next time, Fright Nights and Monster Girls, fucking Ave Satanas, Disco Inferno, and keep watching fucked up movies. But maybe ones that are a bit better.